Hello everybody, this is Kiran and I'll be your instructor throughout this course of Selenium Beginners course, and today we'll be starting on with the basics of the class. Before starting with the class topics, I'll be walking you through the agenda for the entire session so that you can get an idea on what we are going to learn as a part of this training. Let's begin with the course curriculum. Here we go. So this is a curriculum designed for people who want to learn Selenium automation from the scratch. We'll be starting on with introduction to the tool. We'll learn about automation and what is Selenium, then its features and usages. We'll also learn about different components of Selenium. Going forward, when we move forward with the sessions, we'll be talking about the launching of the Selenium on different browsers. Then we'll also talk about web elements, different kinds of web elements. So how automation works, how do we deal with multiple web elements on any web page so that we can automate a web page. So we'll be talking about different web elements and their automation. We'll also learn about locators technique, very important in any automation tool. How do we actually locate any locator? How do we find out any web elements unique addresses? So we'll learn about different locator techniques. We'll focus about XPath understanding. After that, we'll move forward with different kind of ways of selecting different elements, drop down, and how do we list any method, how do we use list methods. And then if we move forward with the curriculum, we can see that we have alert handling in web pages. There are pop-ups which come in Selenium, which come in any web pages. So how do we handle those, and how do we handle frames in a web page? Then how do we handle multiple windows in any web page? We'll also learn about action classes. So how do we use mouse over actions? How do we control mouse actions? So we'll talk about that. And then moving forward, we'll also see how to capture screenshots in using Selenium, and we'll also learn how to handle tables in Selenium. So this is a course designed for beginners of Selenium users. Anybody who wants to learn Selenium from the beginning, from the scratch, can go through this course, and it will cover a detailed basic knowledge on the tool, starting from the very beginning. So in the today's session, we'll try to cover up with the introduction of it, its features and different components of Selenium. So let's begin. Here we go. So before actually starting to talk about Selenium, let's talk a bit about automation. What actually is automation? How it is different from manual testing? So if we move forward with the PPTs. So any action done without much of human intervention is automation. So when we use any tool to do our testing, so that will be called as an automation testing. So without human intervention when we are testing, it is automation testing. So we can see automation all around us, everywhere where we can relate to automation. We can see automation in our day-to-day lives. There are so many machines which are doing our activities automatically. So automation is already the need of the hour, and there's no denying the fact that we have to switch to automation to increase our efficiency of work. So that's where automation come into picture, and that's where many automation tools are there in the market, from amongst which we are going to learn about Selenium. So if you see, test automation is the use of a software to test without human intervention. Now, why do we need test automation? So that we can reduce the time needed to do the testing and increase the efficiency, and also as the size of the applications are expanding and there is a lot of testing coming into picture, we need to increase the efficiency. So we need to use tools so that we can reuse the code again and again, and we can also have more of testing done. So that's where automation and why test automation can be answered. Now let's move forward with the session and see what's more there. So we'll also talk about some pros of automation. So I have already covered some pointers while I was explaining what is automation. So pros of automation clearly can be understood as it increases the speed of testing. Certainly, yes, we can do more testing in less time. So there is a lot of increase in the speed. Reusability is a very important factor, which is also amongst the pros of automation, because we can reuse the same piece of code or a set of test cases which we have written to test again and again. Let's say we have multiple releases planned, so we can we have the UAT test suite ready with us. So once we can plan multiple releases, same UAT test suite can be rerun again and again to do the testing of the same set of test cases which we have. In fact, we can do multiple regression runs using the same set of test cases with slight additions of new test cases which are coming as a part of the new regression, right? So reusability is certainly happening with the implementation of automation in our companies or in our projects. Now, accuracy. So if there are thousands of test cases, and if a human or a manual tester is doing the testing again and again, there can be a situation where some of the test cases can be overlooked because of the boredom or because of the tedious amount of work which needs to be done. So a machine or any automation suite can certainly be more accurate than human testing. Now, the last pointer is about efficiency. The word efficiency means doing more in less time. So certainly with the increase in the speed and because of reusability of code, we can have more efficiency in the team by using automation. That's for sure. So these are some of the pointers which cover the pros of automation. Now, if there are pros, there must be some cons as well. Let's quickly discuss about some of the cons of automation too, so that we get to know what are the problem areas of having automation as well. Now, if you can quickly check on my screen, there are some pointers which include significant investment, maintenance, not as robust, error detection, cannot think. Let's quickly cover each pointer to understand what are the problems with automation. Now, the automation tools or the automation testers come at a cost. Not all tools are free. There are many tools which are licensed also. So let's say a QTP. So Selenium is an open source tool, which is very good pointer about Selenium, which is one of the pros of Selenium. But if you talk about other tools which come at license, they come at a cost. So there is a significant investment there. At the same time, the automation testers come at a price higher than manual testers, or there are more investment in terms of having an automation setup in a project. Now, maintenance is yet another problem with automation, because the code needs to be maintained. If there is any minor design change in the website or web pages which we are testing, we need to have a constant monitoring on the code, and it needs to be maintained, because design changes can make our automation suite unstable, and we need to we need to update the code accordingly. So maintaining the code based on the changes happening with the project is very important, and that is certainly a significant piece of work which needs to be done as a part of having automation in the team. Not as robust, because automation can only perform the set of actions which it has been meant for, or for which it has been written. Now, it cannot be robust, or we cannot just rely completely on it, because it is only going to test what you have asked it to. So that is the problem. So it is not as robust. Error detection. So it can only detect errors which are written in the code. That's where manual testing cannot be removed from the system, because if you consider the last pointer, which is it cannot think. So yes, human minds can see the problems and think and raise issues, but the automation can only do up till where it is written. So let's say there is a set of test cases which you have written already in automation. Now there's a new bug which got in the system, though it doesn't happen without any QA testing. No code is pushed in the system, but imagine a situation wherein the code was written and then the new problem or new bug has been pushed to the system. In that case, automation won't be able to find out the new bug for which there are no test cases written. So in here, if a manual tester would have tested, he would easily find out the issue, right? You can see the new issue, he can raise the bugs. So that's where automation cannot be relied upon 100%. It needs to be updated with monitoring. Proper manual testers have to monitor what's going on in the system and what's going on in the code. Also, so these are some of the cons: significant investment, maintenance, and it cannot think as a human. Now, moving forward, let's see what's more we have for the class. Now, there are some quick challenges which we'll be talking about having automation in the team. So, if we see selection of the right tool has always been a challenge for any company or any project to, because we need to have a tool which will be able to fulfill the requirements of the automation. We have to keep a lot of things in mind before choosing any tools. We have to see that this tool, whichever we are choosing, should be in alignment to what we are trying to get. At the same time, we have proper skill sets in the team to use the tool properly, efficiently. So selection of the right tool based on what we need to automate, what all automation we need to do. Maybe we just need to do website, we just need to do mobile application, we need to do desktop application also. So accordingly we have to choose, and then we have to see what all skill sets we have, which languages, the knowledge of which language should be there in the team, what language we are going to choose for automating. So everything needs to be considered, and then the tool has to be chosen. Now, the second pointer about challenges in automation is no defined processes. Now, there are multiple testers in the team. Everybody has their own style of coding. Everybody might have different ways of coding, and to maintain or have a suite which is completely in alignment to everybody else is can be a challenge sometimes. Everybody should follow same coding standards, same coding styling, and storages of the how they are storing the code, how they are maintaining the suite. So all must follow one standard process. Otherwise, it's going to be challenging merging everybody else's codes together. So that is certainly a challenge in test automation. Having the availability of right resources is absolutely a challenge, because everybody should be well aware with the tool which we are going to use, or the language in which the code is going to be written. A commitment from customer or for management is about having less time, because automation needs significant time in the beginning to let the codes being written, and then actually once the codes are written and then everything is there, then the execution time can be saved. But initially it needs quite investment in terms of time also. So there are always time crunches, there are always situations wherein the time is less to complete the test automation. So that always remains as a challenge and needs to be fulfilled with proper planning and proper knowledge set in the team. So these are little talks about challenges, pros and cons about automation. But whatever we have discussed, automation is in demand, and everybody is learning automation, and automation is the need. So that's not going to change. So we have to learn a very popular tool today, which is Selenium. Let's see what's more there in the today's session. Now we'll talk about Selenium. Let me quickly show you what is Selenium actually, and then we'll also see what are the features of Selenium. So Selenium is an open source tool. Here we go. So Selenium is an open source tool which is used to automate web applications majorly. So Selenium is not used for desktop applications. It is used for web applications. It's an open source tool, and it can be used to code or automate using multiple languages. So irrespective of the language in which your application is written, let's say your application is in C#, but you want to code using Java. So it doesn't matter because your code is going to be independent of your source code, your front end code. So you can use any language irrespective of the language in which your application is written. So multiple languages can be used in Selenium. At the same time, multiple browsers can be used to execute, and at the same time it can be used for multiple platforms. So that is the definition of Selenium. Now, if we just quickly see the features of Selenium, what all features are there in Selenium, we'll quickly go to this notes. Now, first pointer I already discussed. It is an open source free tool. Anybody can use it. There are needs of editor and the language. So we'll discuss about how to configure Selenium and use it in our machine. But let's first learn about the features. So it's open source. Then it supports multiple languages which we have discussed, like Java, PHP, Perl, Python, Ruby, C#, HTML. Then we have multiple browsers on which the execution can happen: Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, Opera. Now there are multiple operating systems for which Selenium can be used. It's Windows, Mac, Linux, and it can be used for both mobile and web applications, but not for desktop applications. And it is very much flexible and extendable. So these are the very important features of Selenium which you must remember and understand. And we'll move forward and see what's more there in the class today. Just hang on. Okay, so now if we see and try to understand, we have some components of Selenium. Now, Selenium, when was invented, had different components, but which is the one which we are going to learn as a part of this training, or which you are going to use majorly, is Selenium WebDriver. Now, we'll see all the components of Selenium. They are Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium WebDriver, and Selenium Grid. So these are the major components of Selenium which are used in the market. Now we'll talk about each component and understand what they are. Starting with Selenium IDE, we'll have a quick session on Selenium IDE 2 in the upcoming classes. But here let's understand what is an IDE. It's a small plugin created which is a record and replay plugin. It is used for recording and replaying the test cases on any web pages. So Selenium IDE cannot be used for complex testing. It is for a very basic flow testing. It's a very simple plugin which we will be seeing. Okay, so this is a Selenium integrated development environment plugin. Now next we had Selenium RC. Now, RC is Selenium remote control. Selenium remote control was developed way before Selenium WebDriver, and then there were some drawbacks which we will see in the upcoming sessions, due to which we had to come up with Selenium WebDriver. Now once Selenium WebDriver came into picture, it became one of the most popular ones, and it is used to automate multiple web pages using multiple languages, multiple browsers, and multiple operating systems. And the fourth component of Selenium which is there is Selenium Grid. So Selenium Grid supports parallel execution in Selenium. So we'll talk about that too. Now RC and WebDriver's features were together combined and they were called Selenium 2, but the most popular ones in the market is still Selenium WebDriver. Okay. Now, so these are the components of Selenium IDE, which is a plugin which we'll learn. Selenium RC was there, then WebDriver came into picture, and Selenium Grid. Now, if you quickly see Selenium Grid here, I'll open a Paint tab to show how Grid actually works. So Grid supports parallel execution, as I told you, right? So here what happens, there is a host machine and there are multiple node machines. Okay, now the test cases are executed on the host. I mean, they're triggered on the host and they get executed on the node machines. So let's say this is the host and these are the nodes. This is node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4. So these are multiple nodes which are there. Now, if you trigger this test case here. So let's say there are 100 test cases. So if 100 test cases are there, let's say here it will be 20 test cases which will be executing, and then we have 30 test cases executing here, and 30 here, and 20 here again. So let's say this is how the test cases are distributed amongst 4 different nodes. Now the amount of time which is needed to execute 100 test cases are, let's say, 3 hours. Okay, let's say 3 hours. Now the amount of time which is taken to execute 20 test cases only is, let's say, half an hour. And the amount of test cases needed for 30 test cases is, let's say, 45 minutes. And 30 is again 45 minutes. And the 20 test cases are again half an hour, which is 30 minutes. Now, when we trigger the test cases here, it gets distributed amongst all the 4 node machines, and they get executed there parallelly. So if the test case execution starts simultaneously, so the maximum time which will be needed to finish the execution will not be any more 3 hours. It will be only 45 minutes, which is the highest amongst any of the nodes. So all test cases execution will stop at the time. This will stop at 30 minutes. This will stop at 45 minutes, 30 minutes. So in 45 minutes, everything will be done. So this is Selenium Grid, how Selenium Grid works. Now, moving forward with the session, we'll talk about IDE and WebDriver now. Let's move forward. Just a second. So we'll learn about Selenium IDE in the upcoming session. Let's learn about the architecture of WebDriver first, and in the upcoming sessions we'll learn Selenium IDE and Selenium WebDriver, how to use Selenium WebDriver also. So if we talk about WebDriver, what is Selenium WebDriver? It's a automation framework. Basically it's a library which is used to automate different web pages on different platforms using different languages. So it's a framework that will allow us to execute our test cases which we will be writing. Okay. Now, it also uses programming languages, but in IDE we were not actually using programming languages. I'll be showing you how to use IDE, and here we can use conditional operators like if, else, switch cases. We can also use looping statements. So we'll see that, but before that, let's move forward and see the architecture of WebDriver. Here we go. Now you can see on my screen there's a diagram which clearly shows that there is an IDE, or there is an integrated development environment where a code has been written. This IDE can be Eclipse, IntelliJ, or any other IDE of your choice, where the code will be written, and then that code is executed, and that code interacts with the browser, and then the browser in turn interacts with the web server. Now let's say this piece of code here, just a moment, sorry. This piece of code here is asking the is an automation code for logging into Facebook account automatically. So there's a you click on the user ID box, fill in the user ID, click on the password box, fill in the password, and click on the sign in button. So that's how we can log into Facebook or any other application. So let's say this code is about automating the login page of Facebook. So once this code is executed, this will interact with the browser. It will invoke the browser. The new browser will open. Facebook page will open. And then this browser will in turn interact with the Facebook server and will ask that this is the user ID and password of the person. Should I be showing him his page, or should I show him an error message? What should happen? It will ask the Facebook server. The Facebook server will take the request, process it, send the response back, and tell the browser that, okay, this is the correct person, show him his real Facebook page and account. So the browser will show you the Facebook logged in page, and in turn also send a response to the IDE where the code has been written that this test case is passed. So in the console of the IDE, we'll get a success message that yes, this test case got passed. So this is the architecture of Selenium or Selenium WebDriver, as in how the automation works in case of any set of line of codes which we are executing. So the test cases can be about anything. Maybe we want to validate some test case, we want to see that payment got successful or not. So when we are actually executing anything, this whole process is run again and again, and that's how we are going to get the results back on the console of the IDE which we are using to write our automation code. So this is an architecture of Selenium WebDriver, which you can see on my screen. Now, if I show you how Selenium RC used to look like, this is simple, quick example wherein in between the IDE or the code where the code was written and the browser, there used to be a Selenium remote control server. So this RC stands for remote control. So this code used to interact with the RC server, and then RC server would in turn interact with the browser which we were using, and then the browser would go to the application server and the web server, and then send the response back to the browser again, and then the response was sent back to the RC server, which was again used to send the response back to the IDE. So there was this middleman RC in between, so there was a lot of time which was invested in interacting with the RC server also. So this is now deprecated, and now we are using Selenium WebDriver only. So if you just see, this is how Selenium WebDriver looks like. The browser and the code is interacting directly, but earlier it used to look like somewhat like this, wherein there's a browser, there's a code, and there's a middleman like RC, Selenium RC, which used to be there in the picture, but now the architecture has changed. Now, when we have seen the architecture of WebDriver, let's quickly see some more pointers about Selenium. So if we want to know some names of automation tools apart from Selenium, here is a list. We have Selenium, we have Catalan, Protractor, Cypress, QTP. There are low code, no code tools also in the market. So these are the list of automation tools which are widely being used by the automation testers. Now, what are the limitations of Selenium? So if Selenium is having so many pros, there must be some limitations also. So yes, Selenium cannot automate Windows or desktop applications, and at the same time it cannot automate barcodes, it cannot automate graphs, pie charts, and OTPs also. CAPTCHA can also not be automated. So these are the limitations of Selenium. So if we talk about automating desktop application, we have to use different tools, and barcodes, graphs, barcode, pie chart, OTP, they cannot be automated using this tool. Now, use of Selenium. So Selenium can be used only to do functional testing. It cannot be used for performing non-functional testing. We can use Selenium for executing our smoke test scenarios, regression testing. We can also do end-to-end testing using Selenium. So these are the usages of Selenium. Now, yes, so that will be all for this session. In the upcoming sessions, we'll learn more about Selenium, as we have discussed in the agenda in the beginning of the session. So let's meet in the next session. Till then, thank you.